So, my name's Daniela. I am 36 in October, but I just turned 35 when I was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer. I'd had a lump in my breast a few months before, and I can't remember if it was in the same breast, but it went away. So then when I felt my lump, I could feel it literally between my fingers, and I thought, I'm going to go to the doctors and just get it checked this time, just to see what it is, because it keeps coming and going. And I called up the doctors, and within a week I was seen. Went into the doctors, and he felt it, and he was like, yeah, that's probably a cyst. 90% of the ladies that come in here, it's a cyst. And my lump, it sounds really weird, but it was smooth and it was round, which is really quite odd. So yeah, I thought it was a cyst, and I was so blasé about it. So blasé. I was like, oh, it's going to be a cyst. I was messaging my sister in the waiting room, and then they'd done an ultrasound, and they were looking under the arm, and she took a little bit longer than usual, and I was by myself also. And this was like a Monday afternoon at 4:45. I always remember the time. And she was scanning under my arm. She was taking ages, and I thought, okay, that's a little bit weird, but thought nothing of it. Went back in to see the doctor, and obviously they had spoken, and he's like, right, we need to take a biopsy. And I was like, okay. In my head, I'm thinking, it's benign. It's going to be benign if it's something. It's like, no way is it cancer. And so she took a biopsy. She numbed my breast. She took 3 biopsies, and they kept asking me, is it okay to do this? Sorry.
No, I'm starting as well. I'm reliving it.
I'm so sorry.
Take a minute.
And do you know what? I didn't even think anything of it. I just thought, like, it's going to be benign, and that's it. And so then I went back into the breast surgeon again. And bearing in mind, I've not gone to a GP. I've gone to a breast surgeon, and he said, okay, it's not a cyst. It is likely cancer. And I was like, what? I was like, there's no way. There's no way. I was running like 5 miles every other day. I was in the fittest I've ever been. There's just no way. I haven't got it in my family. Anyway, so I didn't quite believe him. I had another mammogram. And the thing is, with when you're younger and you've got breast cancer, mammograms aren't really accurate because your breast tissue is a lot more dense. It's hard to tell, hard to spot it. The doctor did say to me, he said, do you want me to tell you the truth? Do you want me to tell you my opinion? Or would you like to wait until your biopsy results come back? And I've said, of course. And he goes, in my opinion, I think it is triple negative breast cancer that's common with women under 40, easily treatable. Because, the first thing that comes in your head is, I'm going to die. I'm literally going to die. Anyone mentions the word cancer, you're like, that's it, I'm dead. I'm 35 and I'm dead. Sorry.
No.
That is literally what goes on in your mind. And so I drove home because I'm by myself, and I'm just, wow. I'm just thinking, wow. The only time I've been in hospital was when I had my girls. I've never even broken an arm. I don't even really take paracetamol. I don't do hospitals. I don't do medication. I don't do any of that. So to go from one extreme to the other, I was just in shock. And then I can remember a nurse coming up to me, and she goes, because they put you in a separate room, And she goes to me, she was sat across from me, and she goes, do you know what, you're going to be fine, and you're going to get to know all of us, and you will get through this. And I turned to her, and this is my breast cancer nurse now, I turned to her and I said, without being disrespectful, I really don't want to get to know any of you. I don't want to get to, I'm pretty sure you've got it wrong. There's no way. And in my mind, I'm still thinking, I think deep down I knew it was that. But in my mind, I'm like, the biopsy results will come back and they'll just say it's benign, and all of this will be like not real. It's not going to be real. You have to wait a week for the biopsy results. So that week was just horrendous, because I mean, when someone tells you you've got cancer, you just automatically revert to death. So for the whole week, you know, I just thought I was dying. And for a lot of other people, that's like the worst part, is the waiting for your results. I think that's why I shared my story. And this is the only, I think this is the part that always gets me emotional when I bring up my children, because like, it's not supposed to happen to me. I've got like, I know when I was sat across from him, I said like, it can't happen. I've got 2 kids and I had IVF to have them. Like, come on, like it can't happen. And of course it changes your mentality completely, because before, when like my whole thing with the eyebrows was me being a mum and actually realising that having kids is so hard, and I fought to have them. I went through IVF to have them, and now I'm like, why does everyone paint this perfect picture of having kids when actually it's really hard? But when I got diagnosed, it was like it made me realise how lucky I actually was, as horrible as that. It puts things into perspective massively, because you know, you just think you're going to live till you're 80, whereas actually I might not have lived for like 10 years. When I was sitting talking to the doctors, they were talking about keeping me alive for 10 years. I'm like, that'll make me 45, that'll make the girls, you know, and that is in the back of your mind all the time. I've always said, if I didn't have children, it wouldn't have been as bad. But I want to live. I want to see them get married if they want to. Just live life, and that's it. So my perspective completely changed. You cherish every moment with them, although I did before, but it's just different. You just completely change as a person with something, when you're diagnosed with something like that. Yeah. What's the toughest moments? Definitely obviously being diagnosed was not great, but someone going through it that's going to lose their hair, I think once you've made a decision, what's right for you, I had peace with that. Once I knew I was going to lose my hair and I decided, okay, I wasn't going to do a wig, I was just going to do hats, and that was it. Once I shaved my head, it's kind of like that, the pressure just left. And it was just one less thing I had to worry about. That was one of the hardest things, losing my hair, for sure. Chemo was hard. Not hard in the way that I thought it'd be, though. It was more hard mentally. And that's what I would say to someone going through it. The side effects you can actually deal with. They give you medication to deal with that as well. You can deal with the medication. If I can deal with it, everyone can deal with it. It's the mental side of it, because you literally watch yourself just each week getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and it's quite hard to actually see yourself, because at first I was like, oh, this isn't that bad. I feel normal. Okay, I'm not that great for the first few days, but I feel normal. I even spoke to my oncologist and said, are you sure those are chemo drugs that you give me, because I feel fine. But then well, you can, even if you look back on pictures that I took,
I was literally about to say, we saw you get more
completely
tiredness.
different. Yeah. And I spoke to my sister the other day and she said, I couldn't tell you when we were there, but when you went into chemo, you had colour to your skin and we were laughing and stuff like that. And then when I came out, she said, you looked like 10 years older and you were grey. It's poison, isn't it? So it just kills everything that's living in your body. It kills. And that's quite hard to see after a while. Like at the end of chemo, I was like, wow, now I look like the people in the films. Now I look like the people in the films. But yeah, but you can do it. The side effects are manageable. It's just you've got to look after your mind and you've got to do things that make you happy. And yeah, and this is how I've changed also, because you realise what does make you happy and what kind of moments bring it all back and make you focus, because that's what you need, is keep going back to those places that kind of make you focus and make you clear your mind and see the bigger picture. Because when you're in it, it's like, it just feels like people, like, I get where people come from when they say compare it to a fight. So it's like you're just being knocked down, and every time you're just being knocked down and you don't feel like getting back up. To address the elephant in the room to begin with, it was actually quite selfish, because I thought, if I'm going to see these people, I'm going to see people for like the next year and they're going to see me with no hair. I'm not going to be able to go to places, and I'm going to have to be extra careful. And it was just kind of putting it out there, because obviously everyone's asking me questions, everyone wants to know how I'm doing. So it was just kind of a platform for me to put it on there so everyone kind of knows what I'm doing and how I am. But actually, what it turned out to be was loads of people reaching out to me that was going through something really similar. And there's a whole community online that is just so helpful. And I didn't realise how much I needed that. But you've got to be careful, because it is online and everyone's story is different. So it's important that you don't compare your story to other people's. That's quite easy to do, sorry. And, the thought of reoccurrence is a thing you live with, and you see it day in, day out. People my age, exactly the same as me, 2 kids, same diagnosis, and then they're getting secondary breast cancer, and you go back to that place of I'm going to die. So you've got to kind of, social media is great in one way and not so great. So you've got to kind of just remember it's my story is my story. And yeah, I've got to just keep that in the back of my mind. Can I just quickly say something in terms of breast cancer in younger women? Like, you always just assume, you associate breast cancer with women in their 50s, don't you? Because that's when, in the UK, we screen is in the 50s, because they're going through menopause and it's a massive hormonal change, hence why a lot of women have breast cancer that age. So I just never associated breast cancer with people my age. I know that's really stupid, and now since I'm in it, I've realised there's way more women out there than what I ever thought. But what also people need to think about is, okay, menopause is a massive hormonal change, but after you've had children, it's also a massive hormonal change. And, I had lumps in my breast beforehand and I didn't think anything of it. And you would go to the doctors and they'd maybe say to you, oh, it's normal, you're breastfeeding, you've just had children, don't worry about it. But you know your body, and you do need to worry about it. You need to know you're normal, and actually it is quite common in women under 40 to get breast cancer because they've had children. And I just never knew that before, and that just blew my mind, because you just wouldn't associate breast cancer with younger women. And now I've met women that are, are 25, younger, with triple negative. Is a little bit different. It's not hormonal, but or women that have just had a baby or pregnant and they've found out they've got breast cancer. Because your body changes, you've got your hormones are just through the roof. So it's so important for young mums to make sure they look after themselves, because it's when you've had a baby, that's the last thing you actually do, is look after yourself. So yeah, it's about knowing you're normal and knowing your body and going with your gut and your instincts. And if a doctor says, that's fine, but you feel like it's not, get it checked. What said? You're not wasting anyone's time, get it checked. She's like, no, let's get it checked out. I said, I don't want to waste anyone's time. And she said, you're not wasting anyone's time. Just, it's a 10-minute, 15-minute appointment. Just get it checked. You'll be in and out. Little did I know, I wouldn't just be in and out. Or going to the doctor can literally mean life or death. It sounds really extreme, but it is. And luckily I caught it early, but my cancer is quite aggressive. It grows quite quickly. And the best part, I've got no cancer in me whatsoever. Can you believe it? Yes. Which I never thought I would get. I went in there thinking, she's going to tell me I'm going to have oral chemo now. I just didn't want to hear the words chemo. I was like, just don't tell me chemo and I'll be fine. I can handle anything else. And then she was like, you've had a complete response. And I was like, okay. And Matt started crying. I was like, for God's sake, stop crying. And they were like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I was just in shock. So they found nothing in my lymph node, no sign that cancer had even been there. The chemo completely worked in my breast. It obliterated everything. But I know how much a complete response is rare. Not a lot of women get a complete response. So yeah, that was the best part.
That's the best part.
Yeah.
I was literally about to say
that was the best part. I mean, I can't say that chemo was great, but we did actually have fun. Like, we made it so much fun. And when I was you're in a cancer centre, and when you're going past each pod, it's some serious stuff. And I tried to remain, you always got to remain respectful, because you don't know where someone else is in their what they're doing. But luckily I'd got to bring my sister or Matt with me, and we would just have a laugh. And that's what kind of got me through it, is just making fun out of the situation, because a lot of people don't want to, or feel like they can't. They've got you, what can you or can't you say? And I'm like, bugger it, I'll do what I want to do, because I'm the one living. I don't have to justify myself to anyone. This is my journey, and if I find making jokes of stuff and laughing and making light of a really crappy situation, if that's what gets me through it, then that's what I will do. And as a family, we all are kind of like that. You're gonna do it. It's hard. Shave the hair off, Daniela. Shave it off. Don't worry about it. You're fine. I spent far too much time worrying about my hair. And chemo is hard, but before you know it, it's done, and it will all be gone. Because when I first was diagnosed, I was like, right, we need to have surgery, and they were saying about chemo, and I was like, no, I want it gone. I want it out. Take my breast, take everything you have to take. I don't care. The first thing that comes into mind is just like, let everything go that you think, and just come into it just prepared to do whatever it takes to get to the end. I think coming into it with ideas of how you think it's going to be doesn't help. You just got to try and keep positive, because it's really easy to go down a very negative path, and some days you will, for sure. you can kind of tell those days I don't even touch my phone. Just take time to yourself and do things that make you happy. I've done it. I've bloody done it. Sorry. I've just got so much hope for them that when they reach 14 and a half, I hope they're the lovely little girls that I grew up. I think more about when they're older than 14. I want to live until they're 20 odd, and for starters I hope you're checking your breasts. But you learn to appreciate the small things, and it's taken me to have cancer, unfortunately, to realise that, which I think is quite normal. Most people get involved in their everyday life, don't they, so they don't think about that. I mean, you know, you hear that checking your breast before. Before I got diagnosed, I was like, oh my God, here she goes again. Check your breast. Like, you just don't really know where it comes from. And you think, oh, it's not going to apply to me. But you do. It's not really about checking your breasts. It's about knowing you're normal and spotting something if it comes up. Because a lot of breast cancer, it doesn't. I was lucky enough, I had a lump that I could clearly feel. It's about knowing you're normal, but really knowing you're normal. Like, you owe it to your children, and you owe it to your family, and you owe it to yourself, mainly. And spotting things early can, like I said, literally mean life or death. It's that simple. Hi, my name's Daniela, and this is my truth.